Brave Tribe is the strongest tribe in all of Yokai Watch. But if you were like me, you probably didn't use a Brave Tribe Yokai until you get Shogunyan, maybe after befriending Draggy, or Cruncha from the Crankakai. Or if you're a fan of the series, Blazion and the construction site. But the Brave Tribe isn't used a lot, because by the time you do get access to them, you might already have a pretty well solid beginning team that can transition into the late game. And you might not use your first Brave Tribe Yokai till post game, but I wanted to see what would happen if you could only use the Brave Tribe Yokai. Can you beat the game? Can you beat Yokai Watch 1 with only Brave Tribe Yokai? So let's get into the rules of this challenge. 1. The challenge starts when I get my first Brave Yokai. 2. Only Brave Tribe Yokai can attack and inspirit in the case that I have other non-Brave Tribe Yokai in my party. 3. If at any point a yokai that is not brave is in my front party and attacks, I have to restart the game. 4. I am not allowed to have duplicates, with the exception of one specific yokai, but we'll talk about that when we get there. 5. I'm allowed to befriend other tribes if it helps me progress through the story or helps me get access to a brave yokai. And lastly, 6. The challenge is completed when I beat Wobble Walk. Before we get into the video, actually, I quickly want to talk about some things. The first thing is, I am playing this on the Switch port. I don't know, I just felt like putting it out there. Second, I actually did have a mini challenge for myself in this challenge, and that was I wanted to befriend all of the Brave Tribe Yokai. Maybe in other tribe only videos, I might include this as a rule, but the main reason why I did end up opting out of doing this is because of the fact that I'd have to beat Volcanoes, and I do not have the confidence in myself to do that. Fight Brave Tribe only, especially with the fact you can't use a healer or a tank. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Let's get into the video. We start the game like every other playthrough. We're at the park with the gang, and Eddie and Bear make fun of me for not having some cool bugs. So I go home, get my net, and go catch some bugs in the park. We then go ahead to Mount Wildwood to find some more cooler bugs, and then we find Whisper, who gives us the Yokai Watch, and then we look around and find Boohoo. We have to fight Boohoo, and then we get the auto befriend with Caden to fight Boohoo. We fought Boohoo, and we befriended Boohoo. We go home, find Dismeralda, we talk to her, and now we have to assemble a team. Now, obviously, we can't technically do this, but for story purposes, we will. And what you will see is that I do drop every yokai that isn't Brave Tribe, if I can. Obviously, some can't be dropped, Caden, Boohoo, and Jibanyan, for example. But you're probably wondering, what yokai can I get at this point? There's actually 2 yokai I can get. Pandal and Katana. After chapter 1, you can immediately access the abandoned tunnel, and in this tunnel, you can find Katana, which I did, and because we need to assemble a team, these yokai are auto befriends as well. So I quickly befriend Katana, and before I leave the abandoned tunnel, I also fight Leodoni and quickly befriend him as well so I can work on getting Shogunyan. Then I went to get Never mind, Panda wasn't the spot encounter. I'm gonna have to fight Dismeralda with only Katana. Okay, so if you don't know about the yokai spots or you're wondering how I'm going to get Pandal, let me explain. Yokai Watch 1 has this feature called yokai spots, where yokai are hidden around the world of the game that you can find, and some might fight, others might give you items and call it there. But these yokai spots have a list of yokai that can possibly appear. In this yokai spot, you can see that I got Mangy Mutt, but after I reset the spot, it can be a Dowana or Pandal, but it's all luck. With this yokai spot, Pandal is the only yokai that will fight you, and you also have a chance to befriend Pandal. You can also befriend Lafalada if you really wanted to, but that's just a fun fact. To reset the spot, I have to sleep for 8 to 10 days, but the problem is, at this point in the game, you can't sleep. Well, you can, but you need to go through the animation 8 to 10 times to reset it, and at this point in the game, you don't get that animation. It just turns into a black screen and tells you your HP is restored. So now I have to wait until late chapter 3 to reset the spot. Anyways, I just befriended 2 more yokai, dropped them, befriended Jibanyan, put them in the back, and now it was time to face Dismeralda. Now, because I didn't get Pandal, I was actually kind of nervous for this fight. This fight introduces Inspiriting and Purifying, and obviously if you're Inspirited, you can't use your Soultimate moves. So I opened the fight with my Soultimate, but Dismeralda did the same. Thank God I used it immediately. I used my soul ultimate and did some more damage. Then Dismarella used her soul ultimate and Katana dodged the attack. Oh my god! Katana really just did that. Not only did he dodge the soul ultimate, he dodged Dismarella's next 3 attempts to try and inspirit him. I did have to heal Katana once, and after I got Dismarella down to half, she finally inspirited Katana. But after she did that, she decided to just keep inspiriting Katana for the rest of the fight. Didn't even try to attack once. So Katana just kept slicing, and before I knew it, Dismarella was down. And then we befriend Dismarella. But before we move on though, can we talk about how goated Katana was for dodging a soul ultimate and then 3 more attempts of inspiriting, and then only getting inspirited until after he got Dismarella down to half? But also, what was Dismarella doing for the rest of that fight? I then go ahead and get the 5-star coins to hopefully get Cruncha from the Crank-a-kai, and I didn't get Cruncha, but I actually did get Tsushiyama, which I forgot that you could get him from the 5-star coins. But anyways, I then go ahead and meet up with Katie, go to the river, meet Tattletale, befriend Tattletale, help Katie out, and now I can reset the yokai spot, which means I can finally get Pandal. After about 40 total-ish minutes, I finally found Pandal, but there's something we need to talk about. I can't drop Dismarella, and as mentioned before, I also can't drop Jibanyan Kaden or Boo-Hoo. I also can't remove them from the party because I don't have other yokai to swap them out. So you're probably wondering, how did I make sure Dismarella didn't attack? Well, it's actually really simple. Before I start the fight, I give Pandal a rice ball, and in this window of giving Pandal a rice ball, no one can attack. So in this window, I would start the soul ultimate gauge, but never actually use Dismarella's soul ultimate. And because she's powering up for her soul ultimate, she can't attack. And I just did that until I got Pandal. Soft resetting if he didn't befriend me, and after 23 minutes, I finally got him. I then went ahead and fought Tangloom, Peckpocket, and Mochismo, and all of them weren't that hard. No one went down, and Tsushiyama was actually showing how busted he is in the early game, because if they landed a hit, it was an automatic OHKO. Before I take on Slimamander, I quickly befriend Dilemma because I need him to complete the fusion quest so I can use fusion. But now it was time to fight Slimamander. And oh my god, having Tsushiyama made this boss fight a breeze, because Tsushiyama is such a heavy hitter. When he lands his hits, he does massive damage for being early game, to the point he opened up the eyelids in 1 hit. So within 30 seconds, I had all the eyelids open and the eye exposed. And because Tsushiyama and Katana hit pretty hard, I quickly got Slimamander down to half before he even closed his eyes once. I quickly exposed the eye again, and Tsushiyama immediately hit the eye, and Slimamander re-hit their eyeball. At this point, I was actually getting a little nervous because Tsushiyama was 1 hit from death and Pandal wasn't spirited, but that warrior died very fast, and Slimamander went down very quickly. Like, oh my god, Tsushiyama is a beast in the early game. Now I'm wondering if it was a good idea to use the Crank-a-kai this early. Well, no time to wonder about it now. We then meet Mr. Goodside to upgrade our watch, but we have to collect some parts for him. We quickly do that, and in the process we befriend Baku, and now we have to arrive to the hot springs at night to retrieve Goodside's lucky undies. We get into terror time, quickly escape, arrive at the hot springs, but Sproink has Goodside's lucky undies, and we need to fight him. He wasn't that bad. I had to heal a couple times, and he did inspire Tsushiyama, and the damage definitely took a step back. But in regards to the Sproink fight, he has 3 phases. First phase, he covers the belly button. The second phase, he covers his face, leaving the belly button exposed. And then the last phase is when he's stunned. But if you damage the belly button enough times while he's in this phase, he will use his soul ultimate. So whenever I got Sproink to this phase, I would just aim for his head and avoid aiming for the belly button. But that's pretty much it. It was pretty simple. We returned Goodside's lucky undies, and now we have the D rank watch. Now that I have the D rank watch, there's 2 yokai I can obtain, Reunite and Machismo. To get Reunite, I need to fuse Helmsman and Armsman, and these two are found in the abandoned mansion locked behind the D-rank watch. So I went to the mansion, unlocked the door, and after about half an hour, I got them both. It was then time to get Machismo, who was found in the alley right by the fusion temple. I befriended Machismo, completing the quest to get access to fusion, and then I fused Armsman and Helmsman, and now I have Reunite. And this is what my team is looking like. Oh yeah. I then meet Walt Kappa, who asked me to catch some fish for him. I caught 3, gave it to him, befriended him, and now it was time to face SV Snaggerdrag, and honestly, he wasn't that bad. I had TO like maybe twice, but other than that, it was a breeze. But trust me though, when we get to the Infinite Inferno, Styx, his counterpart, is going to be quite the talk. We got to the train station right by Goodside because Dad forgot his papers due to what's that inspiriting him. We grabbed the papers, and before going to downtown Springdale, I start the quest for the C rank watch. We make it to downtown, and now we have to do the was at time section, which is actually really easy because in this part of the game, you have infinite sprint. So I quickly make my way to the office building, but before I enter, I actually talk to the lady right next to the building to unlock the 13th floor. I give Dad his work papers, and before I chase was at down, I did try to see if I could reach the 13th floor right now because I wanted to get Minochi, but I couldn't. But before leaving, I got a bug that had this car just in the middle of the building. It was actually very funny, and decided to name the car Larry the Office Car. But moving on, I take out the 3 yokai I need to unlock the C rank watch, and Larry the car did try to follow me at first, but I told him to back off, and he did. I then befriended Wazat, and I also made sure to complete the rank C quest. We finally got the bike, and I immediately took that bike to Goodside so that way I could start on the rank B quest. I then swept Flumpy under the rug and then went to the 13th floor to finally get Minochi, which actually proved to be a little bit difficult because Minochi actually does hit hard, but after declining friendships with some Chatterling and Cupistals, I finally got him. I then quickly befriended Happy Air before sleeping until night so I could quickly pick up a Sawtooth Stag. I then went into the abandoned tunnel and took care of Mad Mountain. I then go to the construction site, and at this point Katanana was in the construction site, so I decided to just befriend Katanana instead of evolving Katana, just because it was easier. I then take Tanglu Mount and went ahead and upgraded the B rank watch immediately. I went back to the construction site and befriended Castellius Max III for Shogunyan and Blazion, and in the middle of this, Pandal evolved into Undi. It was then time to face Massive Face, and I'm just gonna say it, these bosses aren't actually that hard because of the fact that when you have Brave Yokai, they end up doing a lot of damage very fast. So the story bosses won't be that difficult, but just like SV Snagger's counterpart, Massive Face's counterpart was a different story. But yeah, a couple years later, and Massive Face was down. Starting this chapter, I immediately went ahead and befriended Chanson, and while we're here, I actually do want to quickly talk about this yokai for a second. As I mentioned in the rules, there was one exception to befriending duplicates, and this is the yokai. I initially wanted to try and get every Brave Tribe yokai in the game, like I said, but I did end up dropping this quest due to Cruncha and Gleam. But because I initially wanted to go for all of them, I would end up befriending 2 more Chansons. One the same way I befriended the first one, and the second by doing the quest that gives you a free Chanson after completing. I then went ahead and go befriend Tambo, which only took a couple minutes, and immediately put him on the squad because Tambo was level 31. I then started the A rank quest and quickly took Benkei, Quaken, and All Hell down. And after this, I wanted to befriend Benkei, but while I was working on getting him, something came up and I paused my recording until I got back. But the thing is, I forgot to unpause my recording. Now, okay, whoa, listen. The good thing though is that not a lot happened. I befriended Benkei, I got the A rank watch, and then I slept tonight so I could do the museum night section. But before I did, I went back to the construction site so I could get Slack-a-Slash, and that's where the recording starts up again. I was still annoyed by it, but it is my fault. Anyways, I befriended Slack-a-Slash, and I went up into Mount Wildwood so I could get Beetler, who I could fuse into Beetle when I could. And I'm just gonna say it right now, I didn't bother doing it after I decided I wasn't gonna get all the Brave yokai anymore, because there's nothing more in this game that I hate than fishing and bug catching. Before I proceeded to go to the museum, there was one more yokai that I wanted to get, who would actually become a big ally to the team, Zero. Yeah, Because I have the A rank watch, I can now also get Zero, who's pretty much like Blazion and Quaken, but just better. While I was trying to get him, Zero was such a heavy hitter that he was two-shotting my yokai, but I did eventually befriended him. I decided to go to the museum to put him on my team, and when I did, that's when I saw he was at level 42. I traversed through the museum a bit just so I could open up a bit before I worked on getting B3 and K1, and after unlocking the second floor, I decided to befriend him. I quickly moved through the museum, and then it was time to fight the samurai. And honestly, this fight was really easy. I quickly broke his blade, and then after I opened up his weak spot, he didn't even get a chance to get back up and bring his second blade out before I took him out. Like, look at that! Holy moly, this was actually the first time I've ever seen a one cycle like this. It's probably been done before, I just find it insane that I was doing so much damage, he didn't even get a chance to get back up. It was now time to sneak into the school, and in the school, I would end up befriending two new yokai, Quaken and Kompunki. We quickly did the story stuff, and now it was time to fight the big buff spider. For the millionth time, this boss wasn't actually that bad. He was a little harder, but he did a lot of inspiriting, so I did a lot of purifying, and in the middle of this, Benkei did go down, but what I did was use Reunite and Benkei's ultimate to target all the legs, and then I would use Tambo's Slash and Tsushiyama's ultimate to hit the weak spot. But Tsushiyama missed his soul ultimate, so that definitely hurt on the inside. But we quickly go to the roof and skip past the sky view. We then go to the temple and befriended Draggy, and now that we befriended Draggy, we can finally befriend Shogunyan. I decided to give Shogunyan some X-Orbs just so he could be a little caught up with the rest of the team, and after some consideration, I decided to take Tsushiyama off the team. After being on the team for so long, we were finally at a point in the game where Tsushiyama wasn't the best yokai to have on the team. But we will never forget what you did for us, Tsushiyama. One like equals a piece of love for this early game MVP. I then go to the Nocturne Hospital, quickly did the Leodoni stuff, and now it was time to fight Dr. Madaman, which again was easy. It was actually easier than the spider, but I do want to quickly say, even though these bosses were pretty easy, again, their counterparts in the Infinite Inferno were a different story. And specifically this one made me want to rip my own hair out with how much I was struggling, but you'll see what I mean. We then go to Mount Wildwood and figure out Lucas actually knows about the yokai in Yokai Watch. He takes us to the yokai world. We then have to fight Venoct, who I quickly breeze through. I quickly do Grub Snitch's puzzle, and then I decide to go to the next underground area because in this area, we can find a Boda Bat who can drop this item called Vampiric Fangs. If you don't know what this item does, whenever your yokai is holding this item, every time they use their physical attacks, they regain some of their HP. So this would help solve the healing problem a bit, but I mainly just decided to get 3. One for Tambo, one for Reunite, and one for Shogunyan. It was now time to fight McCracken. This fight wasn't a lot, I just took out his hands and then I would focus on cutting his mustache until he recovered his hands, and then I just take his hands out and continue to give his mustache a trim. Then it was time for the second Salamander fight, which was pretty much the same as the first time. It just took a lot longer because he was much more bulkier. We then had to take on Impasse, Dublin, and Badu, which were breezes, and now it was time for the final McCracken fight, which again, wasn't a lot. He inspirited me, I purified, I would go for his whisker tentacles, and then I would aim for the weak spot, and then just rinse and repeat. So, yeah, that was the main game. Now it's time for the post game. Okay, so because we're in the post game, there was some stuff I decided to do before going into the Infinite Inferno. So I'm just going to quickly summarize everything. I immediately did the quest to get the legendary blade so I could get Sheen, which I did, and replace Benkei with Sheen. I then started the quest to get the S rank watch. I then go to the yokai world to fight Apak for the quest, then went to fight the White Reunite to get the key item to get Zerberker with ease, then defeated the other 2 yokai and got the S rank watch. I then started the quest to get Zerberker, fought him, befriended him, and I actually got a 4th Vampiric Fang. I then added him to my team. I then went ahead and befriended Snartle and also put him on my team. And that's everything I did before going to the Infinite Inferno. Now it was time for the Infinite Inferno. First boss we fought was Hydra, who wasn't that bad. It was pretty fine. Zerberker, Shogunyan, and Snartle with the Vampiric Fangs was too much for him. Same also applies to Hoggles. I used the same strat I used on Sproink. I aim for the head, then belly button, then head, and repeat till he was dead. But during this fight, I actually had a not so fun reminder of what Zerberker's skill is. Yeah, so Zerberker has the skill Annoyance, and what it does is basically sometimes he'll attack an ally. Luckily he didn't do this a lot, but it still had me worried, and I didn't want to take any chances, so after that fight, I did take away his Vampiric Fangs, gave it to Tambo, and put Tambo in the front. But starting with Styx, the Infinite Inferno became the most annoying part of the challenge ever. Let me put this into perspective. You're fighting Styx. He fishes up a fish. You're like, okay, that's fine. Take care of the fish. But then immediately after you take out the fish, he pulls out another fish. Okay, a little annoying, but whatever. You take care of that fish, and he immediately pulls out another one. Yeah, you're starting to see why this fight was becoming annoying. As soon as I took down one fish, he would immediately bring out another one. And this caused me to not do a lot of damage to Styx. It was annoying, but I just kind of took it. Right at the end though, he actually stopped bringing out a fish for a good couple of seconds, and when he did, it wasn't the green one, so I decided to have them still focus on Styx because he was 2 hits away from defeat. It was very annoying, but we got out of it. Next up is Calypso. And might I say, let me put it into perspective. First of all, Zerberker went down fast, but imagine the same situation with Styx applied to Calypso, but instead of fish, it's his eyes. After I would knock one eye out, I wouldn't have enough time to knock out the other eye before he would recover, even if I used this ultimate. At the beginning of the fight though, I did knock both eyes out, but this was the only time I was able to do it. Because I wasn't getting anywhere with hitting the eyes and I was having to heal my team a lot, I ultimately decided that it wasn't worth trying to go for his eyes and just went straight ahead into damaging him. Some healing and purifying later, he was finally down. But yeah, these bosses are, 1, starting to get hard, and 2, are getting really annoying. And Dr. No Gut is a prime example of this. At the beginning of the fight, he immediately took Tambo's ultimate away, inspirited both Shogunyan and Snartle, and Shogunyan sliced the hell out of Tambo. He then inspirited Zerberker and Snartle again, and then immediately used his ultimate. At this point, I had maybe done 10-15% of his health, so it was not looking good. While I was purifying Shogunyan, Slash, like me, had enough of Zerberker's bullcrap, but decided to take him out of the game. Look, I'm not necessarily mad with that idea, but what the heck? My strat with Dr. Noga in regards to the hearts was to make sure there was only 1 heart left that I could just pop and stun him. But guess what? The first time he tried to regain health, he did, and regained almost all the HP I had taken off him. I just told myself that I was very unlucky with how fast he did it, so I would try again later where he was at half. I got 1, but then he recovered and his HP went all the way back to 10-15% loss. Yeah, I decided that maybe this was just an unlucky run. I was going to go down anyways, and my team wasn't looking good, so I just decided to surrender and try it again because I'm stubborn. It started off really similar. He took Snartle's ultimate, then inspirited Snartle and Shogunyan. After I purified Shogunyan, he used his ultimate move. After, while I was purifying, he tried to regain some health back, but I quickly popped the heart and stunned him. But not very long after, Zerberker did go down again, but I did manage to stun him again miraculously. And after he got back up, he immediately used his ultimate. Not long after, Sheen would then go down, and he would regain some HP, but after Sheen went down, I had an idea. I had enough items to keep healing 1 at a time, so I decided that I was going to keep switching between Tambo and Slash. Unfortunately, 0.01 milliseconds after he started his animation to regain health, he immediately regenerated health. And it was at this point I would fully commit to just popping any hearts I see. But it did happen again. He regained HP 0.01 milliseconds after starting his animation. But that was the strat for pretty much the rest of the fight. Purify when I need to, pop all the hearts I see, and heal when I need to, and keep swapping between Slash and Tambo. Right as soon as I was going to beat Dr. Noga, I was purifying Tambo and saw 2 hearts I needed to pop. I immediately went to go pop them, but Dr. Noga already tried to regen. But luckily, I quickly popped both of them, stunned him, brought out Tambo, Shogunyan, and Snartle, and we finally took care of him. Oh my god. I hate this boss. I hate it. Next up was Spooklunk, who actually wasn't that bad. I didn't one-cycle him like his counterpart, but I just broke his swords, opened up the armor, and hit the mouse. Tambo and Berserker did go down, and I did revive Tambo, but other than that, that was it. Finally, a break from the madness. I shouldn't have said that, huh? Anyways, I decided I wanted to grind up my yokai a bit because I was still at the point that I wanted to get the rest of the Brave Tribe yokai, so I was grinding them for Gargaros, Ogrelus, and Orcanos, but I did give up on that very quickly. However, I did level up my team quite a bit. It was now time to fight Squisker. This fight actually started off pretty good. I aimed for his whisker tentacle things first, then I aimed for the weak spot. He would inspire my whole team, but it wasn't too bad. But after he transformed into a second phase, it started to get a little more difficult. He once again inspirited my whole team, but this time when he did it, Slash hit Berserker, and Squisker took down Tambo and Berserker and powered up his ultimate, and I healed Slash before he could unleash it, so Slash didn't go down, but yeah, because of the situation I was in. Remember the strat I used to pretty much beat Dr. Noga? Yeah, I used it here as well because Squisker started to love inspiriting my yokai. Unfortunately though, Slash did go down. But this didn't mean I couldn't use my strat. I still did it, swapping between Sheen and Snartle while Shogun just casually stayed out. But after some time, I defeated Squisker with all three out on the field. It was now time for Wobble Walk, and I'm just gonna be honest. The first attempt did not go well. It looks like it was going well, but then Wobble Walk immediately took Snartle and Shogunyan out, and then quickly got rid of Slash as well. So I ended up giving up the fight so I could go level up a tiny bit more. But here was the final look at the team. It was now time to take on Wobble Walk again, but this time I was aiming for victory. We quickly broke the seals to review him. Luckily, he started in the phase where he can take physical damage. He quickly inspires the trio, but before he does, I unleash Snartle's ultimate, which it doesn't do a lot, but it's still something. I swap to the back row so I can purify the front. Slash almost went down, but it's okay. He's still here. Wobble Walk switches phases, so now I have to wait for him to switch back. He takes down Berserker and inspires Shogunyan and Sheen. He then takes Shogunyan down, which I revive him. He then takes Snartle down, so I also revive him. And it's looking a little scary, but he did swap phases again. He tried to unleash his ultimate, but to Shogun, Snartle, and Sheen, they easily cancel his ultimate. He then swaps phases and immediately tries unleashing his ultimate again, but once again, Shogun, Snartle, and Sheen stop him. Unfortunately, they don't do much, but this gave me time to revive Berserker and heal him. Wobble Walk inspirits Tambo and Sheen, in which I work on purifying, and while purifying Sheen, Berserker decided to smack Slash in the face again. Wobble Walk decided to inspirit the back row and then go for his ultimate, but my front row, once again, cancel his ultimate, and after some time, Wobble Walk finally swaps phases again, so now my team can consistently hit him. But he did take down Slash and Snartle and then try to unleash his ultimate again, but I quickly revived Snartle, and I let my front row stop him from unleashing his ultimate, and then Slash, one of the earliest members of the team, defeated Wobble Walk with one final blow. And Wobble Walk was defeated. So, can you beat Yokai Watch 1 with Brave Tribe only yokai? Yes, you can. I'm not gonna lie though, this doesn't surprise me. Brave Tribe yokai are one of, if not one of, the best tribe in the game, but it was still a fun challenge to do either way. If you made it to the end, it probably means you like what I gave and might enjoy my content for the future. So maybe consider liking and subscribing. It'd be super appreciated and you can always change your mind later. But that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for your time.